corner today we are talking about candle magic, which is why I have all of these things. Now they're not going to stay in front of me the whole time, don't worry. I just kind of wanted to have something fun to pop out of. So today we are talking about candle everything, candle spells, using candles. I'm not going to talk about making candles because that's like a whole other thing. It's like a whole ordeal, right? And I'm not skilled at it. I think if you want to make your own candles to use in magic, that's awesome. So awesome. If you like doing that. But if you don't, you absolutely do not need to. And yes, I've got my, my fan. Just because summer here is gross. The real gross. Ah, cool. I got 2 of you on already. So I have my laptop here so that I can respond to comments there. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. Just because I won't be able to see them on the phone. Very cool. Okay, so I'm going to start moving some stuff around. Like I said, today we're talking about candles, and I've got a bunch of different kinds of candles to show you, and tools that I use when I work with candles on my own, a couple of books that I got like most of my candle info from, and of course I got questions that came in advance. I've got 4. I picked 4, and I'm hoping I'll be able to stick to my time if I only do 4. Until we get to the very end, when I will, of course, take live questions. So let's start making me visible again over here. Cool beans. Okay. Just, yeah. There we go. So, as you can see, I've got a lot of different types of candles going. I am a big fan of candle magic and candle spells. I think every spell can totally be a candle spell if that's what I want it to be. And I like to light candles just for every magical purpose. And I think part of that is because the candlelight is very magical, right? It's very magical. It also brings in that fire element, which I very much like. I like working with the fire element a lot. So it does that as well. But it really puts me into this magical zone. When I was Wiccan, when I first started studying witchcraft, candles were like it, right? You needed candles and you needed incense. And then you could do anything that you wanted in the whole world. So I always had candles and incense. And my mom and my sister are candles and incense people. So I'm so into it. One of the things I love most about candle magic is how creative and individual it is. So you can carve up candles, you can dress them. I mean, you can buy them pre-made. I do all the time. But there's also this element where you can completely create a really magical spell candle from something very basic, like this totally blank, no smell pillar candle. It's like a smoke killer candle. So you can take something like that and turn it into something really interesting and magical with not a lot of tools. You don't need a lot of extra stuff when you're doing candle magic. You really can just have a candle and that will be more than enough. Because like most types of magic, you know, the energy is really coming from you and your intentions. The candle is just something that helps amplify that energy or send it out there or get you in the zone or incorporate magical elements, which we're going to talk about. So like I said, I got 4 questions in advance and I'm a huge jerk. And I did not message any of the 4 people. I completely forgot to tell them that I was answering their questions. So they'll be getting an email after with like, I wrote out all the questions and I wrote out answers. I'm going to be sending you guys a little PDF because I feel so bad. But I do have 4 questions and they were all really, really great. So let's jump right in here. This question is from Sam, who's a friend of mine. She says, what kind of ingredients do you usually use for your candle magic? Do you have a base list and then tweak it based on your intention? Or just use the specific herbs for your goals? Or do you do it individual, spell by spell? And all of those things are true. So I definitely have some basic tools that I use all the time that I always have on hand so that I can do candle magic if that's what I want to do. But every single spell that I do is unique. I use whatever herbs I feel like will best work for my purposes at that time. I tweak every single spell. Even if I use all the same ingredients, that spell's never going to look the same twice. Never. So I'll show you guys some of the stuff that I kind of always have so that I can do candle magic. And the first is a candle. And I know you're thinking this is crazy. No, but it's a candle, and that sounds simple, but there are so many different kinds of candles. This is probably what people picture, if not a little bit larger. Basic pillar candle. It's plain whitish. It's like a green color. It's all right. It's a very, very basic candle for pretty cheap. But for different spells, you can use very different candles. Very different candles. So, pillar candle, kind of basic. You can carve all over it. You can write with your carving tool on it. You can see everything, and it burns for kind of a long time. So this is something you would use for a spell that you want to last for a long time, that has long-term, like long-term results planned, or that you want to use just like on a daily basis. Like if you want to burn a little bit every time that you're at your altar or meditating or what have you. Big pillar candle. But not every spell has to be done with a big pillar candle like that. Not even a little pillar candle. There's lots of other ones. So that's what I use usually for when I want a longer spell, when I have something bigger that I'm asking for. The average little short spell, and I do a lot of them, I use these. I don't know if you can see them. They're very small. They're called chime candles. I've always called them spell candles. I don't know where I got that, but that's what they are. So they're called chime candles. They're very small. They burn for about an hour. Like an hour, that's it. They're solid color right through. There's no smells or anything on them. They're just very, very simple, but they're so great. I buy these in packs. These are not the best ones you can get. They're a little bit, I don't like the colors as much. The ones you get at New Age and witchy shops will be much cooler, much nicer chime candles, but they can be kind of expensive, like 75 cents to $1 for one of these little candles that burns for an hour, and that's harsh on the budget. So I bought these in packs, and I'll put a link to all of the stuff that I show you guys today on my blog. Later today I'll be publishing, the recap of this entire episode. So if you want to look for some of this stuff, I'll show you where I got what I'm using. But the chime candle is my absolute favorite. It burns for an hour. I can dress it, I can carve it, I can do anything with it, and I can get it in any color that I need it in. It has all the colors you could possibly need for magic, including things like brown and like you can get different tones of different colors, so incredibly useful. And that's what I use for a lot of different spells, something that I just want to do today, something that I just want to happen this weekend or this week, or something that I only want to focus on really hard for that hour and then completely let go. So when I'm trying to let something go, let something be gone, get it out of my life, I'll take like this little black candle, as long as it's not anything serious, right? These are for more simple spells, more practical every day. I'll take this black candle here and maybe I'll dress it, maybe I'll just burn it on its own. But I'll sit there while that candle is burning, and I will kind of meditate on this thing that I'm trying to get rid of, whether it's a behavior or a relationship or what have you. And I'll kind of meditate on it, and I'll make sure that that's what I really want. I'll come up with a plan. I will, do all of that while the candle's burning, and once the candle is out, the issue is gone. And I put it out of my mind. I don't think about it now. It's gone. And that is one of my favorite uses of those little candles. Short spells like that. I also like to burn them when I go into a bath. So if you take magical baths, I could stay in the bath for 6 to 7 hours, and I used to as a teen. I don't like to get as wrinkly and pruny now. I also live alone, and back then I did not, right? I lived with all men, so that was the only place where I could lock the door and they'd leave me alone. So if that's the environment that you live in and you want to do candle magic, chime candles burn for an hour. You can usually, unless you have tiny children, get that hour to yourself, right? So even if you're in the bathtub, you can have this little candle burning on the edge of the tub in a little holder. And I have a couple little different holders. They just plunk right in. Those candles also burn almost completely gone, so you don't have drippy wax all over the place. Very cool. Oh, they're my fave. Let's make sure what we got here. Okay, another thing is you don't have to buy blank candles. You can absolutely use a scented candle. You know, even if you get it at like a store at the mall and it smells like mojito, that's okay. I said that because I have one over there, and it does smell really nice. And I mean, mint and lime absolutely have magical uses you can look up, but mostly it's a very refreshing candle. You know, mint and lime are very refreshing. You can absolutely use those for magic for sure. You can also get scented candles that smell great that are made specifically to be used in magic and witchcraft. And there's tons of them. You can go on Etsy and you can find them there. You can find a lot of really cool witchy candle makers on Instagram. I have a few that make very, very interesting candles that, again, I'll put the links to. But these candles they're done up, right? The candle is made by that person, so it's a hand-poured candle. It's already got oils and maybe herbs and intentions kind of pre-built in for a specific purpose. And the ones you can get now are very fancy. I'm seeing jar candles with crystals and things sticking out, so while your candle's burning, you can pick out all these little tools to continue to use in your magic, which is neat. Super neat. And you can pay a little bit much for those, but they're kind of like, they're a lot like those candles you can buy that have like a little diamond ring at the bottom. It's not always diamonds, but they have a little ring at the bottom. And it's kind of like that, but with magical intention instead. My favorite brand for magical candles is Coventry Creations, which are in Ferndale, Michigan. Just, geez, I think they're like a half-hour drive from here, and they do come to my city all the time. They also, Jackie Smith is one of the owners, and she wrote literally the best book on candle magic that I could ever recommend. I've talked about it a million times because it's one of my favorite magic books ever. It's Coventry Magic with Candles, Oils, and Herbs by Jackie Smith. It's one of my absolute favorites. They make pre-made spell candles. They're made with intention, they're hand-poured, they have oils in them, they smell super good. Like, they are very nice smelling candles, which is great. Like the little votives, a few of them, I could leave them burning in this room and go into another room and I could still smell them over there. Needed Change, they have one called Needed Change. That candle's incredible. That little votive, it fills your whole house with this beautiful smell. I really like it. But I like those, and I trust that brand. They give you little instructions on the label of, how to carve into it or how to use it in a spell, but, none of it's necessary. You can do whatever you like. That's probably the brand of pre-made candle that I buy the most. They also, I think, are the biggest distributors of those pre-made candles to stores, even online stores, so they're pretty huge, I guess, but they are mostly local. And Coventry Magic by Jackie Smith, who owns Coventry Creations, is my #1 recommended candle book. So once we have whatever candle we are going to use picked out, if you want to add more things to your candle, that's when things like oils come in. I like oils. I like little potions kind of in general. But what these oil blends are is a carrier oil with essential oils and herbs and powders and things, depending on who you get them from. Some are just the oils, which is fine too. These ones, most of the ones I have, are made by Beau Magique. I also have ones that are homemade, based on recipes from, I believe it's Scott Cunningham's Incenses, Oils, and Brews. Lots of really great, very simple recipes to make your own magical oil blends. And lots of companies sell them as well. You can also find them on Etsy, again. I like how many independent creators of magical items there are now. I love it. So I use the oil to dress my candle. So for general purposes, I have this, which is an anointing oil. It's for general purposes. It's, blessing, consecration, purification, invoking higher energies. You can use it for any purpose. Kind of like a white candle. It can be used for any single purpose that you need. That's what I have on hand all the time. I have a few bottles of it. And then I have other individual oils for different purposes. So this one is Fortune Teller. It's for bringing up psychic abilities. I have other ones that are, you know, come to me and attract money. And, oh, this one's Queen of Sheba, empowerment and assistance for a woman's financial independence. And you can see that that is one of my faves. I gotta get some more, especially now that I'm watching American Gods. I love the Queen of Sheba as a character. And I always picture her as Pam Grier because I'm obsessed. But yeah, I will take the oil and use it to bless or consecrate or dress my candle. There are a million ways you can do that. I like to use my hands. I like to use my hands because I like the oils and I don't mind getting them on my skin because I know that they're all safe. Make sure you're not using a straight essential oil. That's not super safe to put on your skin. But what you do is you apply the oil, you put some in your hands, and then you apply it to your candle. Depending on the tradition or book or whatever that you read, there are different directions to dress your candle. You could come down to the middle from both sides. Another one of my favorite sources of info about candle magic is Madame Pamita, her YouTube channel. She does a lot of hoodoo how-to videos with candle spells. And the way I practice candle magic is apparently very similar to hoodoo. So now it's become like, you know, it's become a thing that I buy hoodoo books because I know those candle spells are going to be for me and I love the ingredients. But what she does is when you're trying to bring something in, you're trying to bring it in from that earth, you dress your candle in an upward motion. And when you're trying to get rid of things, you go in a downward motion. And I used to think it didn't really matter, but she's done this a few times. She explained it and then she said, think of it in terms of bringing things in, literally. You're trying to bring stuff to you when you put it up. And when you don't want something on you or near you, you push it away like this. And I just thought, wow, that is it's a little too much common sense for me to say no to. So I've adopted that system. What do we got here? Watching it work. Thanks, friends. I really love when people, you know, get paid by their employer to watch the show or listen to the podcast or something. I'm so sorry that, like, my hair is getting drenched. I hate this. I keep losing hair elastics. Summertime is brutal. Brutal. I even have central air, and the fan is like the whatever is right there. Like I didn't close it; it's there. I'm just sweating. Also watching it work, wonderful. I forget what I was doing. So yes, putting your oil on. After your oil is on, you can sprinkle it with herbs or powders. I like to use, for all-purpose type stuff, the ones that I use the most, I have mugwort. And this one's not cut up, but it's a very fluffy herb. It's got to be kind of small, right? So that you can sprinkle it on and it'll stick. And I also have sandalwood, powdered sandalwood, pre-powdered, awesome. And that is like a very magical kind of all-purpose, it's not really like plant, it's a wood. I guess it's a plant technically, but yeah, it's a very powerful all-purpose magical tool. Oh yeah, there might be some like weirdness up here. My phone screen broke during an episode of this show not too long ago, and it wasn't in my budget to fix it right away because it was unexpected. So we're gonna have these weird little rays of light above the show for a little while. I really hope that's cool. I hope it actually isn't getting too much in the way. If it does, if it means that you can't see anything, please let me know. Okay, fluffy herbs, powders. Oh right, we skipped a step, didn't we? I did it on purpose. Carving. Carving is probably my favorite step in the candle magic process because this is where you get really creative. So you can use any sort of carving tool, and I'm going to go over a few of them, to carve words, names, dates, or symbols and sigils that you've created into your candle to really bring that magic in, or maybe seal that magic, or make sure that it gets to the right place. My screen's broke too. Yeah, stupid phones. I don't know why the screens are so breakable. It's just silly. It's just silly. We use them for so much now. Right. Sorry, I get distracted a lot. You guys are fun to talk to. So carving. My favorite carving tool that I currently own, kind of in general actually, is this. This is a porcupine quill. It's a real one. I have a couple. Yeah, I have a couple, but this is the one I use for carving the most because it's got a really good tip. No porcupine was actually harmed in the harvesting of this quill. The lady I got it from, her and her partner were walking, you know, they were taking a walk through the woods. And they came across this porcupine that had been dead kind of a long time. And he was just kind of, you know, exposed and everything. So they gave him a little burial, and they took some of the quills and, you know, they did a little ceremony and funeral for him. And then she sold me this quill for like $1. And I was so excited. But yeah, it gives me that connection to the earth. I really like, I don't want to say animal bits, that's weird, but I collect very much to animals. So fallen animal things like fallen hair, or things like a porcupine quill that can be left behind after the animal dies. To me, these objects already have energy in them that is very natural. So that's kind of my all-purpose thing that I use for carving candles. And porcupines specifically are, there we go. Porcupines are specifically a symbol of faith and of trust. So when I use it, I think of, you know, make sure that you trust in your magic, in your own power. Make sure you have faith that your spell is going to work. All of that kind of stuff. And it just feels very effective to me. I also have, they're called coffin nails. This is another hoodoo item. Fantastic. These, by the way, are from Miller's Rexall Drugs. Yeah, in Georgia. Miller's Rexall Drugs in Georgia. Absolutely legendary place for all sorts of materials that you need for hoodoo, voodoo, santeria, or lakumi, as it's called now, and I have to keep remembering. All of those Southern, Caribbean, and African-based traditions. You can get all of that stuff there, and you have been able to for decades. It's very, very cool. It's a fixture of the South, right? It's neat. But I got these coffin nails. It's a tiny little nail. It's very rusty. I don't use these for everyday magic. Like, I'm not conjuring money with a coffin nail. That's not really, to me, that just doesn't add up. So what coffin nails are for any magic that is considered baneful or bad or black. So, you know, any sort of cursing or hexing. I'll also use it for protection, for any sort of protection or banishing or getting rid of, letting go. I also use it when it is an intense situation. So when my cat was stolen recently, if I didn't tell you guys that story, it's wild. My cat was stolen by a local lady who is just a cat thief, apparently. She's just a cat thief. And I carved a candle to help bring my cat home, and it was a cat-shaped candle, and we're going to talk about shaped candles in a second. It was a cat-shaped candle, and I used the coffin nail to inscribe on both his candle to bring him home and the candle for her to, you know, eat shit and let my cat go. She had a black candle. His cat candle was white. But because that was a very, like, serious and dire situation for me, because I was very scared, because I was, like, really serious, I went with a coffin nail instead. And the coffin nail that I used, I stuck it into the black candle, and after it burned, there was not much black candle left, but what was left I disposed of with the coffin nail. So I don't use these very, very often, and if I do, it's one that I'll reuse. I don't usually get rid of them unless it's a very serious spell. I did a hex on Trump and racists, and I used the coffin nail, and that coffin nail has also been disposed of. That's a really cool, very, very cool, fun little way to carve candles. Since I mentioned figure candles, I've got a couple here that people always love. And this is the only figure candle that I have left, but I have it left in multiple colors, of course. Figure candle. Figure candle, it makes sense. It's already molded into the shape of a figure, and you can get them in cats. This is the Venus of Willendorf. She's my favorite. This is the candle I use to represent myself in spells because she's fat and pretty, and I like that. Figure candles, you can get them that look more female or look more male or whatever. Some of them even have genitals. Some of them have no genitals, and they're just kind of a person shape, you know. That's cool. You can get these for sympathetic magic. So this will represent a person. This is, you're sending magic to this person, or you're trying to work with this person's specific energy. The person could be you, or it could be someone else. So these can be used to get a message to someone, to work magic for or with someone specific, to get rid of someone specific, if they're human shaped. If they are shaped like animals, they're used for all sorts of things. Cats are good at retrieving things, cat candles. So if you want to get money, if you want to attract someone closer, you can use a cat candle to go and retrieve whatever it is that you want for you. I also use cat candles in any sort of magic that actually involves animals or cats. And I actually have done that a few times, and it's usually when an animal goes missing. I break out one of my cat candles, and I'll make a little altar with their thing, and they've worked every time. I know I have the remnants from my candle for my kitty. Yeah. These are the remnants. I gotta get it out of this bowl somehow. Oh, yeah. I love when it just pops out like that. But yeah, it's worked every single time. And again, I do it much differently. So for Clover, I actually went out, my cat's name is Clover, and I got some red clovers, which were in bloom when I named him, of course, and I put those around the candle. When a different cat was missing that I knew, her name was Jasmine. So I put her, I put her candle around with some jasmine flowers around it, and I burned jasmine incense, like going out the window to try to, let her know that this was the way home. And both those cats made it home, so I think that's pretty effective. I think so. What do you do with the remnants? That is one of our next questions, actually. Smart? Okay, I just want to make sure that I got all of that. The last thing I always have. Last thing. I promise. And I can talk about more and show you guys some fun stuff. The last thing is your holder. So I have candle holders that I only use for magical purposes. This little cauldron is one of them. That's kind of my all-purpose, always burning on the altar when I'm at my altar candle, which I can't believe that's not as trendy anymore. It's weird. That was like I said, that was a Wiccan thing. You always had like an all-purpose candle burning on your altar for any sort of use, Anyways, so candle holders, and that could be things like this that have figures or labels on them. Religious figures, candles with religious figures are all over the place. This is, what is it? Yeah, it's St. Martha the Dominator. Her day is Tuesday, so it's the only day this candle gets used. That's why there's still some left, but on Tuesdays, when I need her, I do burn that candle. Same with this one for Santa Muerte. I put a new candle, usually one of these, in here anytime I need to work with Santa Muerte. Because I like to reuse things, right? So I have those. I have smaller candle holders that, again, I only use on my altar. And then I have these plates. Especially with a figure candle or with a pillar candle that I've carved up, I don't always want to put it in glass, especially if it's got lots of herbs or glitter or powder or something on it that could make it burn too hot and break the glass, because that is a thing that can happen. So I like to burn them on a plate. That allows me to put things around it, to dress it up, and to see the whole candle. So I have this one. That's my kind of general purpose magical plate. I got it in 9th grade. My best friend at the time, she knew I was interested in witch stuff, so she got me this for my altar top and a bunch of black candles, which were very hard to find at the time. And I've had it ever since, and I only use it for magical things. I also have this like antique pink plate, and that one usually stays in my room for any sort of magic that I do in there. So I perform candle spells in different places. Most happen on an altar top like this, but some happen in my room. Those are spells to do with anything that's directly tied to me, even like, sleep or love or sex or health, anything like that. that usually gets burned in my room and often on this pink plate. I like to do that because, like I said, I can surround the candle with supportive elements like herbs, crystals, roots, what have you. I can put that all around on the plate. And I can usually get that stuff out to be reused after. So I like that. I'm trying to make sure I don't destroy anything. Want to check out our... Aw, that is so cute. I picked up a tiny candle holder that had a bell in the base at a thrift store. There's another witch somewhere in my neighborhood. Absolutely. I love finding witchy things at thrift stores, and I'm like, who put this here? Especially very witchy candle holders. If you can find if you can find candle holders from the 90s at your local thrift store, so many of them have suns and moons and stars and stuff all over them. Hell yeah! There's also a lot of this cobalt blue, right? Because it was the trend at the time. So great. Oh yeah, I have an electric one for when I need to burn one all night and can't stay up to keep an eye on a real candle. That's another thing I'm going to mention too. And I love those electric candles. I got one, and it's even red. I can't believe I forgot it over there. I got one where the wax on the outside, and it's wax on the outside, but it's an electric candle. It has a scent. It smells like apple and cinnamon, which to me is very good at like around the fall. It's a very fall candle. And I can keep that going, and the small amount of heat generated by the electric candle part makes it, you can smell a little bit of apple and cinnamon. So if you can't have a real candle burning for whatever reason, don't shy away from those electric ones. They're absolutely not the worst. They're not the best, but they're not the worst, and you can get some pretty cool ones out there. And that's brilliant. If you have kids running around, like if you have a daycare out of your home, or you have a million pets and they're all just jumping up, sometimes having a candle lit for more than the however much time you can spend right at your altar is just not feasible. And those electric ones are really great for that. Real great. How are we doing for time? Oh, cool. I'm going to go over my time again. I don't know why I keep saying this show is half an hour. It's clearly an hour every time. Okay. So this is going to answer a little bit about that question of remnants, which is also, again, going to come up. So this one is from Beth in San Antonio, Texas. Oh, thanks, Beth. Did I mention who the last one was from? Or was that all Sam's question? Oh, it was. Okay. Wow. The whole first half hour was one question. So Beth in San Antonio, thank you so much. One big question as I start dipping my toes into candle magic, often a spell requires that I let the candle burn out. But this seems wasteful and even dangerous to me, since letting a candle burn out often means it will just burn away to nothing. Is there a proper way to extinguish a candle so I can reuse it for a later spell and not leave it burning for hours when I have cats and kids running around? Awesome question, Beth. Yeah. So, most spell books tell you not to reuse a candle that you've made for a specific spell, and to let the candle burn all the way down, and that's how you know your spell is going. And that's all, honestly, I know why they say that. And not reusing a very specific candle that you've made for a very specific purpose. So let's say you make this candle and you dress it all up and it's to attract new love, you know, and you burn it halfway down and then you stop. And then you're like, oh man, I also want to attract like a new job. They seem related, but they are very different. They have different energies, unless they're related. So if you want to attract a new job with a hot boss, maybe they're the same. But or, you know, maybe you want a half for love and half for like protection or something like that. It just doesn't always work out. But there are definitely ways to get around this leave it burning for a million years thing. First of all, it is totally okay to put out a candle when you leave. Put the thing out. Do not burn your house down. I personally think that if you burn your house down doing candle magic, that's a bad sign. Like, I don't think your spell's doing very well at all. And I think it's time to bail. Yeah, don't burn your house down. You can absolutely put your candle out when you leave. You can blow it out, or you can use something like this, which is a candle snuffer. Right? Some people will tell you never blow out the candle until the candle spell is done. When you blow it out, that means the spell is over. But when you use the snuffer, it means it's, to be continued. If you don't want to use the snuffer and you don't mind blowing out your candle, what I would always do is just say, okay, thank you, candle. I'm going to have to put you out right now, but I will be back later and we will continue this spell. And that's, again, when I get home or the next time I'm sitting at my altar, I will light the candle and let it finish. Another thing you can do, if you like using candles all the time, is this all-purpose candle idea that I have. So, like I said, when I started with Wicca, you used candles for a lot of things on your altar. You used colored candles to represent the elements, to represent, the god and the goddess or specific deities. But you also always had a basic candle, usually a plain white candle on your altar that you could light every time you sat down. It could be scented or not. It was a candle that you liked and that you burned every single time when you sat down at your altar. That's what I do with this cauldron. I put a new tea light into it, and every time I use my altar, this candle, at the very least, is the one that gets lit. I'll also, I'll light my incense with it, or I'll use it to light another candle. But I always have it burning because the candle itself, the act of burning a candle and having that beautiful twinkly little light, that is very magical on its own. And sometimes I just want to do a spell where I just say something, or I think something, or I want to meditate and I want to look at that candle. And that's why I always have like plain white candles on hand. I have this entire bin down here just of tea lights and votives and things so that I can always have like a all-purpose candle, a main candle, I guess. And that is really great for if you don't need an entire candle. Even if you don't need an entire chime candle, you just want a little flame going even for 10-15 minutes while you're doing something in particular, you can blow it back out and put it back on the altar, and that's its purpose. So I highly recommend having something like that. Yeah, and you don't have to get a plain white one. I mean, you can get, a purple one is good for magical purposes all the time. A black one is really great for protection. So if you want it to form a protective barrier around you, that's what your main candle can be for. If you want to initiate communication with beings or spirits or something, that's what your candle can be for. And you can get a white or a black or a purple or even like a blue for communication. Yeah, so that's great. Oh yeah, birthday candles. Birthday candles are the bomb. They are the even smaller chime candle. You get the melty on the bottom, you stick them to something fireproof, and that little candle will be gone in an instant. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, the little birthday candles is honestly brilliant because you can get so many fun birthday candles. You can get ones that have colored flames. Totally love that. So I can buy a pink candle with a pink flame, and that's really neat. Like purple with a purple flame, and it's just... Actually, oh my god, I'm pretty sure I have candles that burn with a purple flame. Oh, I haven't tried them. Yeah, so these. I got these as a gift. It's a tiny little birthday candle, see? And it's purple. And then when it lights, you can see the flame kind of change color. I don't know if you can see it from all the way back there. But the flame does burn purple until you get to the very tip. Such a cool option, and I can't imagine this candle would burn for very long. I'll stick it to something and see. Yeah, no, it's not going to stick on there. That's okay. But yeah, so those are a really fun option. I'm glad you guys mentioned that. I kind of forgot about, birthday candle hack. Yeah. Oh, the working candle, yes. I feel like even though it's not in books anymore, it's not always recommended. I feel like there's a lot of witches that'll just light a candle that they have, that's always out, that's always ready to go. You've probably been doing it, you've probably done it a million times, like, oh, I just need a nice candle to light. Yeah. So that is one way that you can kind of, save on candle wax. You don't have to always use really big ones. Now, when it comes to reusing a candle that you've made for a spell, this is a big like faux pas, right? But there's lots of ways to do this. So let's say this is your candle. And the spell that you want to do is for getting a new job. And there's a few elements to this spell, right? There's, you know, there's a lot of things involved with getting a new job. You have to quit your job now. You have to put out your resume. You have to be confident in an interview. You have to have employers that want to look at you. So there's lots of different elements. And what you can do is light this one big candle for a job and then put smaller support candles or what have you. But if you want to use this candle over time for all of these kind of matching purposes, what you do is split your candle. And I don't mean like actually cut it. You use pins. Now, these pins specifically, oh, so pretty with this little pin cushion. These came in the Witch Next Door subscription box, which was awesome, super awesome. And this time it was all about candle magic. It so worked out. It's almost like I planned it like that. So it comes with all this information, including about these pins. So you can use the pins to mark time. So let's say you want to find a new job within 4 weeks. You're giving yourself 4 weeks. You can stick 4 pins and every week burn a part of the candle. Let's say you want to do that system where you have different facets of the spell that you want to do and you want to burn each one separately. So what you can do is say, you know, this first part of the candle here, this is for giving me the courage or the energy to quit the job that I have now safely. And I'm going to put Tiger's Eye there because Tiger's Eye, oh yeah, these pins have crystals. They're amazing. Like I said, pictures on the blog. I'm very much into this box. So Tiger's Eye is for courage. I don't want to break it. So you put that pin in there, and when you're burning your candle, when it gets to the pin, you can put it out and take the pin out. That part of your spell is done. You know, the next one is I want employers to be interested in my resume. I want it to be, you know, very attractive to them. And I've got aventurine, which is very lucky. And you stick that there and do it the same way. And then I want to be very good, very well spoken. I want to be very well spoken in my interview. Sometimes I get nervous and I want to be calm and well spoken. So for calm, you can put the amethyst, but this one is lapis lazuli, which works great for both. And there. So you don't burn down this last part until you have an interview. You burn this after your resumes have been put out. You can even put something in between, you know, I hope my resumes, I hope my resumes stand out and fully present my abilities. But you put this after your resumes are out to attract. And you burn this to help you quit the job that you have now or to get ready to start something new. So you can do it like that. You can also do it in time frame. So if you want this candle to last a month, let's say you want to do a spell over the course of a month. Like you want to attract money to get the rent, or you are working on specific stuff around your house and you have these 4 weeks, or you're working on a project and you have 4 weeks to complete it. You can use these pins to divide your candle in even spaces, like this. It's not perfectly even. Don't come at me. So you can put your pins in there, and basically what you have now is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 or 7 day candle already divided for you. And since these ones have crystals on them, it even brings in that extra energy. You can also, if you want to do a candle spell for 2 people or 2 situations that are a little bit opposite but if they are related, you can put them on either side. So you can put one here, and you can put one here. And just have each part of the candle relate to that person. You could even pick, you know, a zodiac-based stone. So amethyst and hematite definitely have zodiac properties that I cannot think of off the top of my head. Another thing she has, this is really, really neat. When seeking guidance or answers, insert 2 or more pins into your candle at the same level, across from one another. Designate each pin with a different answer. Light the candle after dressing it, paying close attention to which pin falls from the candle first. The first pin that falls gives you a piece of information on the answer you seek. This is a thought-provoking way to seek deeper answers than a simple yes or no. Remember, a candle pin is not the end-all, be-all answer. It is an intuitive tool. And I think that is very interesting. And it can be done with smaller candles. You don't have to use something this large. It's just easier for you guys to see. So, if you're burning down a candle, so let's say you are offered 2 jobs. You're offered 2 incredible jobs. They're the best. You can say, each one of these represents this job. Which one is better for me? Or which one is better suited? Which one should I take? You can even do a couple of questions, right? And whichever pin falls out first is your answer. So if your pin falls out here and this job is in like San Francisco, you can also ask another question like, I don't know. Oh my God, I can't think of anything now. Like, if I move, will I find a good place to live, whatever. But then it answers your questions for you. I thought that was neat. And I like that the pins that she made have crystals on them. And she did put what each crystal is used for. So green aventurine is good luck, amethyst is intuition, tiger's eye is shapeshifter and inspiration and courage, lapis lazuli is the wisdom seeker, so truth, awareness, and wisdom. And communication, I like lapis lazuli for that. And hematite is the controller for grounding, balance, energy drawing, or banishing things. I love that pin system. I think it's really fun. And that's a way to make your candles last a little bit longer and get more use. I'm going to make so many witchy pin cushions. Oh yeah, I just heard the song in the background. Okay, listen. I made a really hilariously fun fire-themed playlist for this. Again, I'm going to link to it on my blog because I think you guys are going to love it. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. It starts with like disco, and then it gets rock and roll, and then it gets country, and then it gets disco again, and then it ends with the roof is on fire, of course. So fun. So in that box, not only were they those pins, there are candles included to go with them. And what's really cool about the candles that come in the box, which is the Witch Next Door box, make sure I post links, is that they're dipped. Like old school dipped candles. And they do have, you can smell all their beeswax. You can smell that it has oils and stuff in it. So this one is attraction. Orange for change and magnetism and attraction. Allspice and angelica for attraction and opening doors. So great. And then there's a black one for repelling. So there's an attract and repel. And this cute little ceramic candle dish to hold them in. Such nice candles. And since they're beeswax, they just stick right down in there. I love that shit. I love it. And they also included these tea light spell candles. Tea light spell candles are the bomb, much like a chime candle. It's a very small candle, but you can decorate them with herbs or oils or powders or whatever. And they can be made for specific purposes. These can burn in a small holder, even on your desk at work, right? You might be able to burn a candle at work in a glass holder. Kind of a covert way to be doing some magic. Also kind of travel friendly, right? You can bring this with you. I'm glad you guys like the pin cushion because I just thought that was the neatest thing I have ever seen. You could use these candles or these pins to carve your candle, but I wouldn't want to bend the pin, but you absolutely could if you have a soft enough candle like these beeswax ones that it comes with. Totally could, but I wouldn't on my like cheap pillar candle. Right? Make sure I got all my points there. But yeah, so like I said, the box came with multiple candles, candle holder, the pins and the pin cushion, and this really nice, like actually, like on real paper and everything, it's shiny. A whole bunch of information for you to use candles in general, including moon sign correspondences that also feature the zodiac symbols, so you can use those to carve into your candle, and a guide on different candle colors in their uses and correspondences and things. So if you're looking to learn about candle magic, like you're brand new and you want to learn and you want to get started, man, I cannot recommend this box enough. This alone is really neat. This is so much more than you get in a lot of other boxes. I love instructions. But yeah, highly recommend that one. And I don't want to burn the candle yet because I want to make sure I use them for something really, really good. And they're called chattering spell candles. I think that means they talk to you. Oh. I think that like they make cute little like fiery sounds. I hope so. That would be fun. Oh, don't let the candles, don't leave your candles burning when you leave. I'm just going to say it again. I'm just going to say it again and again and again. Another way that you can save wax a little bit, there are some spells that they never run out of style. You know, so let's say, you know, you've got all those kids and those pets and those things, family, house, stuff, life, and you want a candle for your home to be this peaceful sanctuary. This peaceful sanctuary where all of that stress from outside just stays out, and inside everyone feels a lot more calm and peaceful. That candle is useful forever. So you can get a nice big candle or whatever, like one of those big 3 wicks, it can be anything, but you can get a nice big pillar candle and carve it up and dress it for that specific purpose, and then put it in the room that you guys spend the most time in. So if you guys all spend time in the family room, or you watch TV together, or you know, hang out in the backyard, even if you spend a lot of time out on a deck or a balcony, take that spell candle and put it in a really nice holder in that space, and light it when you guys are in that space. Especially if there's any sort of tension flying around, like if all of a sudden everybody's kind of at their throats, it's time to sit down and light the candle and everybody just needs to chill. That way your candle can last, I mean, you could burn that candle for a solid year if you're only sitting there for, you know, dinner or something like that. If you're only sitting there for small amounts of time, if you don't want to leave it burning too long, etc., etc. So that way you're not wasting a whole bunch of candle. Now, the question, I think it was Anna that asked, and I got this question from 2 people. So Tasheena asked, what do we do with the wax remains? And I believe this one is from Lucas. Yes, Lucas. I was just wondering if you read your wax as the candle burns or any remains afterwards. If so, what are some of the signs you look for, as well as any resources you can recommend to help? Really great questions. And they both work together well, so it makes sense. So you've got your candle and you've dressed it up, you know, you've been carving it up. I should have actually like dressed up a candle. I feel like a lame ass now. What you can do with your spell candle remains, you know what I do? I throw it in the trash. Not every candle is appropriate to just throw in the trash, but most of them I throw in the trash. Not usually my trash, like I'll go for a walk on trash night and I'll put it in random garbage somewhere, you know, with the caveat that the spell candle only affects the person it's meant to, not anyone who happens to stumble upon it. You can also wrap the wax up in paper and you can leave it at a crossroads, again, away from your home that is kind of deserted. It's great to do that at nighttime. You leave it in the middle and then you leave and do not look back. And that's a fun disposal method if you have a place to do it. If it's energy that you would like to keep around, you can take the candle wax, as long as it's, you know, it's natural and it's not full of garbage. Some candles are cheap garbage. As long as it's not too shitty, you can bury it in your yard or your garden. That way the earth can kind of take on that energy. You can also do that to get rid of something, but don't bury it in your garden. If you can bury it in the garden, like if it's an awful curse or something, if you can bury it in the garden or on their property, that would be dope, but that's kind of hard to do. If you use soft wax, like these beeswax candles, you can totally like reform that wax with your hands or with a hairdryer. Madame Pamita's got a whole guide on reusing the wax from her beeswax candles, so I'll link to that for you guys. But so you can reform it. You can reform it into a new candle. You can reform it into a little sculpture that sits on your altar, or a little talisman that you can carry around. You can also form it into witch spurs or burrs. It depends who you talk to, but witch burrs. what these are, they are a curse item. They're a nasty kind of item. So if you're cursing someone or something, or you're doing any sort of like banishing type magic, you can take your candle wax after and refashion it into a ball, and you fill it with even more disgusting stuff. So, and I mean, like, you know, if you can get anything that's like moldy or something, you fold that in. Anything that smells bad, you can mix in hot foot powder or, you know, war water, anything that's really kind of nasty, and use the wax to kind of bind it all together. And then that, you just kind of huck at the property and make it land in the bushes at some time, and then, you know, your spell is cast and is where it needs to be. But throwing them in the trash is perfectly fine. Just, if it's not a nice spell, don't throw it in your own trash, and don't throw it in the trash of someone you know unless it's the person that the spell's for. Another really fun way to reuse the wax, so fun. A lot of witches used to do this. I don't know if a lot still do, but they would keep all of the candle wax that was left behind. Sometimes there's nothing, but sometimes some candles are very drippy and they leave a lot, right? Take that wax and just keep it. Put it in a box or a jar or something for the year. And when Involk comes around in February, Candlemas, it's a very candly holiday, people will take all of those magical candle remnants and, you know, bless them and etc. and make new candles. They'll make new candles, and these candles are usually gifts, or they can be put back on the altar as your working candle, or as like gratitude and looking back on the spells that you've completed for the year. My mom and sister used to do that, but do it at Christmas time so that they could give the candles out, right? And I always thought that that was a really fun idea that was just way too much work for me. I love the idea of making candles. Sounds so beautiful. And then every time I actually think about sitting there and pouring candles and having to sit there and wait, I'm done. I'm done. I just want it to be ready. That's why I like dipping candles, because you dip it and then you leave it to dry and then you walk away, and it's like a candle at the end. You don't have to top it up or like watch it. Yeah, I love dipping candles. Now, if you want to read anything that happens with your candles, that is absolutely a thing. That is not a thing I do a lot of, because the thing with reading any sort of candle remnants, whether it's the wax or the smoke that comes out while the candle's burning, or anything that's left in the glass, if you have a glass after, all of that definitely has meaning. But all of that also has real world or physical reasons. And a lot of the candles I buy, like I said, are these plain cheap ones. Cheap candles don't burn nice. So leftover wax for me is like, if it burns really weird or on a wonky angle or something, I'm like, it's just a shitty candle, no big deal. If it's a really nice candle, I pay attention to it if there's problems. And within the colored, my hands shake a lot. If you ever have to see me use a barbecue lighter, I need you to just not point out how shaky I am. You hear it jangling off the, off the glass. That's why there's black smoke on the inside of all my candle holders. It's because I can't light the stupid thing. But that is absolutely a thing. There are lots of different ways to use the candle that you're burning for divinatory or like omen reading purposes. So again, I'm going to link to this. In hoodoo, this is a popular practice, is reading your wax in your smoke. There is an entire section of it in Coventry Magic. And if you look up most hoodoo practitioners on YouTube or Instagram, they have some instructions. Hoodoo Delish has a really great video that's all about reading these glass candle holders, looking at the type of smoke that forms on the inside, or how the wax burns down, or discoloration on the glass, that can tell you different things about the spell that you're performing. Likewise, if your wax is all out, some people can read symbols in that. There's also a divinatory practice called Ceromancy, which again is very much, she gives you instructions on doing it in here. And that involves a glass bowl, and after your candle's been burning for a while and you have a nice little puddle of wax, you, with intention, pour that wax into the water and look at the shapes that are formed. This is a lot like reading tea leaves, right? So what you look at are the way the wax hits the water and how it forms. If all the wax splits up, something's kind of messed up, you can look at the shapes and try to read it almost like reading clouds or reading tea leaves. You can find guides that give you specific shapes to look for, or you can just use your intuition. It depends. If you've ever done something like scrying or tea leaf reading, and you found that a lot of those like shapes were not what you actually saw, it's because you need to figure that out on your own. But that is an entire practice that is really, really neat and can be done with lots of different kinds of candles. And I think that's an awesome way to check in on the progress of your spell. So Hoodoo Delish today, when I was watching her video, there is a different meaning for absolutely every way that these candles burn. If a lot of wax is left on the front, it means that there's a physical blockage for your candle. If some is in the back, it means there's a spiritual blockage. On the left and the right, it means things like in the past or in the future that are blocking you. If you have black smoke around the top or around the entire candle, that means that there's something blocking your spell. If the black, stops part of the way down and gets much lighter and then the candle burns out really, really nice, that means that whatever it is that your candle had to burn through has been burnt through. And that's a really good sign. If you have white smoke on the inside of your candle, it could be that a spiritual being or some sort of spiritual, like a spirit guide is trying to contact you. And if you have the wax in there, it could mean that there is a big blockage that you need to work through. Especially if there are striations in the wax or how the candle burns, if there's wax left, all of that. Again, I don't do that because of my shaky damn hands, but that is very, very cool. Very cool. And I highly recommend that video. Again, I'm going to post a link because it was really interesting because it was just so interesting. There's so many ways to check in on how your spell is working. And what's cool about candles is you can look at the actual candle and kind of tell. So I don't read, smoke so much, but there are certain signs or omens or situations that I watch out for and I interpret a little bit. So let's say I'm burning a candle in this glass jar. There's no herbs on the candle that would catch fire. There's very little oil. It's just a plain candle, just like this guy, burning in a glass container. The wick was the right length, everything. There's no reason, but the glass busted. There's a huge crack, or it's shattered, or blew open, or something. If there's no physical reason why the glass is broken, boy, am I in trouble. So I have broken glass containers because I had too many fluffy herbs on the outside of my candle and then put it inside one of these and it just got too hot and it broke the glass, which can totally happen. You got to be careful when you're putting herbs on candles that go in a big tall container like this. Those are the candles I like to burn on those plates. But when it breaks the glass and there's no physical or kind of rational reason, I guess, for it, I'm being told that this was not a good idea. If it breaks kind of early on, it's telling me that I shouldn't have been doing this spell at all in the first place. I picked the wrong fucking thing. Now, I might have picked the wrong thing, or it might be that some people are really mean and send bad energy, right? It could mean that there's some bad vibes coming at me from someplace else. If the glass breaks down here, and there's no reason the candle would have gotten exceedingly hot down there, what I take that to mean is that my spell is completed, but I shouldn't do it again. Don't do it again. You're just going to have to throw out the whole thing because it's done. And often, if that's the case, it's either because the spell's over, you're good, you don't have to do it again. But other times, often if there's a breakage like that, I just think it's a kind of a bad sign. Because now I have to throw out the entire candle holder, the whole thing. And that, to me, is kind of extreme. I like to reuse things all the time. So I see that as kind of a bad sign, almost every time. And I'll try to, use divination or my intuition to figure out what's up. Those things, when that breaks, I dispose of that in the trash, in a random trash container away from my house. Absolutely do every single time that happens. I don't keep that glass on hand. I don't keep it in the house. That needs to go. So that's gone. If I burn a candle on my little plate and I have a ring of, fluffy little herbs or powders or crystals or roots or what have you all around, and my candle doesn't have a holder, it's just a... Now, if my candle burns, and it doesn't touch any of the stuff around here, that's a little bit of a problem. And usually that problem is that I wasn't doing this right. I wasn't focusing on the right things. So the stuff that I put around the candle is supposed to support the candle, the spell, the work. You know, so it brings in certain energies from herbs or from crystals or what have you. If that candle burns all the way down and refuses to touch any of that stuff, it's because that stuff wasn't actually helpful to the spell. That is a very odd occurrence, especially with kind of a large candle that usually leaves a lot of wax. If it burns up real small and doesn't touch anything else on the plate, I'm like, what the hell happened here? Because it's bizarre. But it's happened. And usually what it is that, you know, I was mistaken. So I was mistaken about the reason I needed to cast the spell. I was mistaken about the kinds of energies that were involved. I was mistaken about some facet of the spell. And in that case, I gotta do some, you know, figuring stuff out, and I'll usually restart. I'll do it again, and I'll try with new support stuff. If my candle burns down really nice, but there's wax left, and it has fully encompassed all the other things on there, the roots, the crystals, the herbs, it's all stuck there in the wax, and I can get the herbs and roots and stuff back out. I can see them. They're not completely encapsulated. I take those out and I put those in a mojo bag and I carry them with me until I feel like my spell is complete. The candle is telling me like, oh great, thanks. I totally used that energy, but I don't really need it anymore and you do. You can take it back. It's very polite. So I don't do a lot of very specific wax or smoke reading, but there is a lot of wax and smoke reading stuff that you guys can do. And I'm going to make sure I have links and resources for you guys to find videos on that. As far as books go, Coventry Magic has all of this stuff. And if you're looking for working with candles in this way that I really like, any source that talks about hoodoo or conjure, a lot of that's just my favorite way of doing candle spells. And a lot of the ingredients that they use are so perfect for everything that I do. These oils from Beau Magique. Beau Magique is Canadian. Terry. She's fantastic. I highly recommend these oils because they have real things in them, real bits of magnet, real bits of, you know, lodestone, real bits of everything. A lot of these are made in the hoodoo style because she is from the South. Like my Van, which I'm running out of. Van is a kind of a classic hoodoo oil. It's for road opening, general magic enhancing, banishing and repelling, getting rid of stuff, and it's great for Mercury retrograde to kind of break up that fucked up energy, and it works well with the throat chakra. It's very lemony, and lemony stuff is very good for helping that along, and it's hoodoo style. So if you're looking for candle stuff like this, Sticks, Stones, Roots, and Bones by Stephanie Rose Bird, fantastic. And she has like a whole separate chapter 5, Harvesting the Gifts of Fire. That's all about fire and candles and the herbs and oils and stuff that you use for that. And then of course candles appear other times throughout the book as well. And I believe Old Style Conjure by Starcassus also features some candle magic, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Most witchy books you find will have candle spells in them, but if you are looking to learn about using candles in general, in all these different ways, get something that's specifically about candles. This Coventry Magic has everything from candle shapes to how your smoke, like which direction your smoke is going from your candle, how she got started making candles, which is actually like a really riveting story. There's a lot of personal stuff in this book, which I like. And she also talks about some herbs and some crystals and zodiac correspondences and stuff. It kind of gives you everything you need to learn about working with candles in a very hoodoo-inspired tradition, or traditional way, I guess. Yeah, Vander, that's why it's running low. It's because it's Mercury retrograde again. Favorite idea, new candles, because I only do good energy spells. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for candle magic, and it's all very individual. It's very individual. It's very creative. You can do whatever you want with it. If you want to burn the candle just like this and have most of the processes happening in here, that's totally great. And if you want to fill this with herbs or far too many herbs like I do and dress it with oils and carve it, you can have this beautiful, very personal, like, masterpiece of magic. And I used to think it would be hard to burn, something I worked so hard on, but I'm so excited to watch that motherfucker burn. I love it. I get such a, like, rush watching my spell candles burn because I'm like, I trust you. Yeah, this is gonna do it. I'm a weirdo, I'm sorry. Also, the roof is on fire is playing right now, and so, like, the song makes me laugh so hard. It reminds me of my youth. So that was everything that I had today. Special thank you to the 4 people who sent me questions. So Sam, Tasheena, Beth, and Lucas, thank you all so much. If you're watching this, even though I forgot to send you a damn email and I feel so bad, keep an eye on your email because I'm going to be sending you a whole little PDF later that answers your questions and gives you the other ones already written out if you want to refer to them later. Because I feel bad. I feel real bad. And also special thanks, of course, to the Witch Next Door box. The Witch, I don't know if you guys can see her cute little logo on the sticker. Classic. And you can find that at thewitchnextdoorbox.com. And again, I will be linking to that on my webpage, on thefatfeminiswitch.com, including showing really nice pictures of the pin cushions and the pins and the hand-dipped candles and everything. I'll make sure that you guys can see what I got in there because I think it's really neat. So I talked for way too long, but I love candles. I love them so much. So if you guys do have any questions, please feel free to ask, but in about 15 minutes, if I don't go, I'm like, I'm like really taking up too much time. My little pin cushion, I love it. Also, if you have any questions about the stuff that I used here that, like I presented, that's cool too. A lot of people have questions about the porcupine quill. And I think it's just because animal bits makes people uncomfortable. And it does to me. I don't like anything that hurts animals. I really don't. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just, I love having something from an animal. Something that connects me to them. I really like that energy. It's very comfortable for me and very, like, empowering. Animal energy is very empowering for me. So I always have something related to animal magic on my altar. Maybe I'm going to have to do a Seeker's Corner episode about that. I already did rabbit magic, but maybe I should just talk about animals in general. And animal bits and things. Bones, what have you. Yeah, if you guys are struggling with Mercury retrograde, Van for sure. Beau Magique, this one's really great. It's a nice big bottle and it's very legit. You can also get the teeny tiny one. Well, I know she makes it larger too, but from Lucky Mojo, Lucky Mojo Curio. I don't buy a lot of shit from them, but their Van oil is top notch and it's got real lemongrass in it, and I love that. What is your opinion on making candles for others? I think it's great. You know what? I love receiving a candle, a spell candle that was made specifically for me. It doesn't even matter if it's a purpose that I thought I needed to work on. I'm very appreciative that someone put that energy into something, and I find that very magical. And then sometimes when I need to do magic for another person, I feel like if I ask, it's too weird. Like if someone needs to heal, if they're unwell, and I want to light a candle for healing, I will just do that. It's kind of like how people say a prayer for someone who's in the hospital. Likewise, if, you know, I want to just, you know, your kid's first day of school and you want to make sure he's blessed and protected, you can totally just make a candle for him. But if you are taking something like a figure candle, like this, it is sympathetic magic, right? But if you are turning this into a specific person and then using it to control the will of that person, you might come up against some barriers. You might have trouble that might work out bad. In general, it's just not very nice to mess with the free will of others. I take free will so seriously. We all have the right to do whatever the fuck we want. as long as we're not hurting anybody, right? That is where I kind of start to cross the line. But in general, I don't have a problem burning candles for others or people burning candles for me. You know, people go to churches and light a bunch of candles for people all the time. You can also pay practitioners, like Madame Pamita does this. You can pay her to burn a spell candle for you. So she'll create the spell candle for whatever purposes that you need. I saw recently she did one that was a green pyramid spell. So she has a whole plate candle, fully dressed, and support candles, and that is for your purposes. She's sending that energy for you, and you know, you have access to the visual of the candle. That is so cool. It's such a cool option, especially if you're really in need, or if love is really not your style. I think buying a love candle from a responsible practitioner who burns it for you, I think that's totally okay, because that's kind of important. You know, you want to make sure that goes through. It's a little less personal, I guess, but I like people making stuff for me. But that depends on you. You might not like people making a candle for you or dressing a candle that looks like you, and that's okay too. And if someone's like, oh, can I burn a candle for you, and you don't want them to, just be like, oh, kind of rather you didn't. It kind of freaks me out, and that would be fine. If they still did it, they're just a weirdo. Yes. So you might not have been here at the beginning when I talked about carving tools. Your athame or a small knife is totally acceptable. I would cut myself because I'm a dummy, but it's acceptable if you're not. You can also, if you go to an art supply or craft store, you can go to the sculpting section, and the small sculpting tools there, you can get ones that have a curve and a straight edge on the other side for sculpting. Those are awesome for carving candles, and they usually have a nice wooden handle that's pretty thick, so they're really easy to maneuver. I like those a lot. And again, of course, you can make them very magical. I personally mostly use this porcupine quill. That's my little buddy there. I use that because I like the animal magic connection, and it's also about truth and faith, or trust and faith, so it helps me trust in the process. And if I'm doing magic that is scary, or that is about protection or banishing or any of that stuff, or if it's a very serious like issue, I will use one of these coffin nails that have some very badass energy. Is what coffin nails have, badass energy. And I love these ones because they're from Miller's Rexall Drugs in Georgia. To me, they're like just one of my most sacred, like, magical items. But I love using them to carve. You can use even like if you want to use a pin, like a push pin that has a little handle, those are great. You can use any kind of nail. You can even use, what are they called? All wood, like bamboo skewers that you use for cooking or making kebabs. Those will break eventually, but of course they're wood. They just, you know, you can sharpen them, or you can put them in your compost pile, and it's not a big deal. I like those a lot, especially for when I did classes on candle magic. I would bring in bamboo skewers. They're not so sharp that anyone's going to hurt themselves. They come a lot in a pack, and they're biodegradable, so that's cool. Gosh, I love these hand-dipped candles. It reminds me of going to, like, what are they, like colonial museums, open air museums, you know, the places where they dress up like it's colonial times and they dip candles. I always like the smell of the beeswax. Beeswax are my favorite candles. My favorite, but they're so expensive. How do you handle candles, oils, scents, etc. around animals, as in certain scents or scenarios to avoid that might harm the animal? Yeah. Like I said, don't ever use full essential oil on your candle. Make sure it's diluted in other oil. You can also, if you don't want any smell or any essential oils on your candle and you still want to dress it up and stick things to it, olive oil is awesome. Olive oil, I'm Italian, right? So olive oil is like in my blood. And I consider olive oil to be just a very magical substance on its own. So you can absolutely use olive oil to avoid kind of the smells. When it comes to herbs and things like that, always look up to see if the herbs that you use are toxic if ingested. And make sure you don't drop any on the ground, because your pets will totally take it. They'll totally take it and eat it. Exactly what you don't want them to take. Certain scenarios to avoid that might harm the animal. If you have animals, especially something like a cat, that will jump up on your altar table. Lots of cats do that. I got lucky. This cat does not do that, but my last one did, and he singed his fur all the time. All the time singed his fur. You can use those electric candles, or I like to get something like that, and that is just fully... This candle is actually amazing. It's got an insert that I've been using for far too long. But put it in there so that the flame, you know, after it burns down a little bit, it's not even coming up over the glass. It'll save you a little bit of that awful burnt fur smell. I think that's about it. I know that a lot of essential oils are bad for animals in general, like even essential oil diffusers and stuff. That's a hard call, because you don't want to completely avoid using any sort of plant matter, you know what I mean? You can, like I said, instead of using the oils, you can get dry plant matter. You can completely powder your plant matter in a mortar and pestle. So let's say you want something like Van Van, but you don't want to use something with essential oils. You don't want to use something that your cat could lick or whatever, your cat or your dog or your bunny or your fish, if you have a fish that comes out and licks things. Just look up the ingredients of Van Van oil. So what that is lemongrass, citronella, vetiver, and maybe something else I'm forgetting. But if you want to, get those dried herbs and completely grind them up and powder them. And basically what you have there is a Van Van powder. And you can put that on your candle. Sorry. You can put that on your candle instead of working with the oils. That won't smell as much, but you will smell a little bit of burning herbs, which isn't bad. Also, always burn the candles with the window open in the room. Always open a window, especially if you use cheap-ass candles like I do. If you use cheap-ass candles and you see that black smoke coming up, open up a window. You'll notice if you ever burn a cheap candle with black smoke coming up out of it, if your animal comes in the room, as soon as they smell that, they're gone, because they know it's no good. So I always light or open a window there. And I'll even burn candles kind of near windows if you might think they might be putting too much out in the air. I do that with incense as well. You know what? Another thing you can do to keep your animals away from your candles, you can, like if your animal likes to be in the room with you while you're doing all this, likes to be up on the table even, just get yourself some catnip or some treats or something, and set up a little space on the floor where your cat can be very happy staying there and rolling around, you know, completely distracted from the candles up here. If you want, you can even put them inside a bathtub or a sink or something and shut the door. They can't get up in there, and if it falls down, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to set your bathtub on fire, right? Yeah, sometimes I've had cats where I have to keep them distracted, so I'll put some little treats, and I'll just put a couple around the room and some catnip so the cat's energy is still there and, you know, making everything real nice and cat-like, but they're not jumping up on your candles. Cats love to singe their fur on candles for some reason. For some reason. Lots of cats. Okay, I think I have time for one more question if anybody has one. If not, I will say goodbye and I will get this blog post up and ready. It will be going up today. I swear it will. It'll be going up today, so if you want links to any of this stuff, keep an eye on the blog. It'll be up later today. Someone asked me how I keep all of this organized. It's not as organized as it looks. But I use boxes. I use like shipping boxes and stuff. For my oils, for my main ones, I have this really pretty box. Keep my main oils in it. The rest are either they don't get used a lot or they're doubles or something, and they're just in a cardboard box. I keep candles in a lot of times in a Ziploc Tupperware container, just to keep them from melting or anything like that. Keep them out of the sun. Oh my God, you're so right. Left eye. Just be careful. Some bass. Okay, some tubs are made of fiberglass now. Don't pull Lisa Left Eye Lopez. You're right. Don't set your house on fire. Don't. Do not set your house on fire. Yeah, that would be bad. But yeah, watch out for your tub. Definitely find out what in your house is flammable. My whole house I think is pretty flammable. It's old. And I'm sure some of the paint, under the paint that I've put up, is lead paint. It's like 100 and something year old house. I'm sure there's lead paint. Okay, it is 1:30. It's been an hour and a half. Thank you so much to everyone who showed up today, who watched the episode, who sent in questions. I see that Sam just got here. Sam, I answered your question. I did it first, but I forgot to send everyone a message. So I'm going to send you an email with all of the questions later so that you can still have your answer. And I'm going to be taking pictures of all the things that I have up here and that I showed you, so that you guys can get a better look at some of it and make sure you understand. I know it's kind of hard to see it all up here, but I like this. You guys can actually see like stuff. I think it's cool. So I hope you all have a really fantastic day and a really, really great weekend. The full moon is on Tuesday, so now is a great time to do anything you need to do to get ready for that full moon, or to, bring stuff in before the culmination of the full moon. Real fun. Candle spells are especially good at the full moon. Just saying. So I hope you have a good day, a good weekend, and thank you so much for showing up, everybody. Bye. Now I have to get up and turn it off.